Hey everyone, Carrie Millspaw here, and welcome to my Inspired TV show where we find solutions in our situation. And today I have a fabulous soul sister all the way from the Jersey Shore in my hot seat today. Her book launches today, Sexpot with stretch marks, so we're all super very excited to talk to you today. So Jenny G. Perry is in the hot seat today. How are you, Jenny?
Good, how are you? We'll pretend we're serious when we're normally goobers together.
Yes, exactly. We're trying our best to be serious for you today, but we are so silly. If you only knew what was happening before I hit record. So it's all good. So Jenny, let's start with right with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of your life story.
Okay. So I always had weight issues in my mind. When I was like 10 years old, I was teased for being overweight. Even though I wasn't overweight, I was just a typical kid. You haven't, developed yet, so you just kind of have like that regular little kid body. But once that seed was planted, I labeled myself as fat. So then I moved from Philadelphia to New Jersey, and no one ever said I was fat, but I just still carried that. And it was like I never associated myself as being judged physically until then, where someone labeled me as something. Because, growing up, my mom would tell me I was cute and stuff, but I never had that like from peers. So then I started identifying with my body, and then when I got to my teenage years, I went through an eating disorder. And so fast forward to my 20s, and I had 2 children, and I became overweight. And if you would have told me back in my bulimic teens that I would ever be overweight, I would have said, no way. And I remember being 24 and looking at myself and being like, how did I get here? Like, really? I couldn't even believe it. I had so much shame with my body, and it felt overwhelming. And I know there's a lot of viewers where when you have to lose not 10 pounds, not 20 pounds, but, I lost 50 pounds. It's actually wound up being 60, but I lost 50 within 6 months. And when you have to lose that kind of weight, it feels like it's literally impossible. And people say, oh, people do it. And you're like, yeah, but how? And it just feels like it's going to be more work than it's worth in a way, or that you're going to have to miss out on fun and everything for so long. And I did that, like wrestle yourself to the ground and you can't eat any carbs and all that kind of stuff. And I lost the weight. And then after that, I was miserable. And I drank too much. Like, I just was in this place of that, like, I almost lost my center, because that sense of identity, I had like short haircut, and like some of the outfits I was wearing, I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but I was trying to be this mom. And that's why, the book's called Sexpot with stretch marks. And I think, oh my God, she said Sexpot. She's a mom of 5. But it's like, the idea when you become a mom, it's like, what's acceptable? Like, are those heels too high? Like, what does that mean? Can you be spiritual and show cleavage? Like, all these things. And so when I lost the weight, people started looking at me differently, and like that I wasn't as smart, that I was like younger because I was dressing like hipper. And I just like, I didn't like it. I didn't like that. And then once I took the physical part away, which I remember hearing an analogy on like Oprah or somewhere where it was like, that closet or like that project that you never do. It's like, if you clean out that closet, then what? So it's, if you always have that thing that you like have to do to fix, and it kind of lingers there, once you do it, you're kind of like, oh my goodness. So I did that. I lost the weight. I conquered that thing that I thought was going to bring me happiness, that thing that you think is going to be like the heavens open up. And I realized that I didn't like myself, and it had nothing to do with my weight. And of course, I still thought I needed to lose more weight, because it takes your mind some time to catch up with the weight loss. And then I started to hear like this negative voice that I had. And I was like, I have to change this. I have to. So I read like everything I possibly could about like law of attraction, spirituality. I tried to like rewrite my relationship with myself and create a new life for myself. And I'm not going to say it happened overnight. It definitely didn't. It's something where, just like with weight loss, if you are unhappy and you want to change your life, you can't just decide to flip a switch. It's like deliberate. Every day, my daughter's getting ice from the ice machine. Every day you just have to trust that when you make those changes, that it will, like, eventually you hit that tipping point. Just like when you're like working out and you're looking at the scale and you're like, I haven't lost any weight. Eventually you're on a roll. And it's the same with, positive thinking. And I know you're big on this too, is that like what you put in your mind every day, like whether it's affirmations, whether it's inspirational people. I mean, I had to change a lot about myself. I had to change the way I thought about myself, the way I thought about other women. It was definitely a process. And that's why, once you get on the other side of that, you want everybody to be there. Like that, I want everyone. I wish I had a magic wand to boop, boop, boop. But it's a process that happens differently for everybody. And people are like, oh, it seems like it happened so fast for you. But it didn't really happen fast. It's just that I think that because of the dark depression I was in my teens, that there was a yearning for more then. That sometimes people don't realize they have a yearning until their 40s or 50s. So that brings me, so that's the short, I don't like to get too much into like how dark it was because I don't really see the value. Like, I had panic attacks, I hated myself. I compared myself to other women. And I think a lot of women can relate to that, but I don't like to stay too much in that. I like to stay in like where I'm at now and like changes factor, what they can do.
So was what showed up after the weight loss? Is that when the panic attack showed up, or was that before the weight loss?
That was before that. And for me, I know you're big on the health stuff too. Panic attacks can be related to sugar. They can be related to hormones. They can be related to drugs or alcohol. Like there's a lot of different factors that contribute that. You can talk to a doctor that would tell you not so, but I'm telling you that caffeine was not my friend. And that lots of sugar in your body, it's just not good. It's just not good. And so I also didn't realize that I was not in charge of my own space. Like you have to make sure that you are very clear about what your energy is. And it can get really woo-woo and new agey, but what people do understand is that when you're around certain friends, they either fill you up or drain you. And some people are not like that. I get that. When you're an empath, you can be a little bit like a sponge and you can take on other people, like at the mall around Christmas, and you're like, oh. And that's where you have to make sure that you're really centered and taking care of yourself. So that way, like you fill yourself up with yourself so you have more to give your kids. And if not, you're just like, oh, you're like, just can't handle things. You get into overwhelm really easily because you're so affected by other people's energy. And during that time period, it was hard to be around people sometimes because I was afraid of their judgment, but then I was also so reactive to their energy. And yet at the same time, there was times I didn't want to be by myself because then when you're by yourself, then that negative voice, it's like, will not shut up. And so it keeps talking. And at that time period, I realized is that by way of studying the law of attraction, when I was on that channel, then that meant that everything that was energetically a match to that would come into my world. So I'd be like, my kitchen's a mess and everything is bad when you're on that channel and you're in that stream of thoughts with yourself. And so if you can just do anything to raise your vibration a little bit, like dance, listen to a funny, YouTube video, anything that raises your vibration, you start looking around and you're like, I could clean, but it's not terrible. It's so funny. It gets you to see that we are all looking at the world through different eyes and how there's different realities. Because you can never argue with somebody else's reality. Like if they think like everyone is a jerk, then in their world everyone's a jerk. And you don't have to argue with them. You just get to decide, maybe there's been jerky people in your life, but focus on the people that are awesome in your life. And you'd be surprised. And there's more awesome people and more awesome people. So for me, law of attraction was a huge thing. But it's not just about writing affirmations and reading, the law of attraction books. It's like you have to integrate it. You have to, like, on an energetic level, do it on a daily basis. Live it, really.
I love that because you and I have similar stories. I was going through my divorce when I tried to figure out who I was, and I lost, I don't know the actual weight, but I went from a size 14 to a 6'8". And you're like, I'm sexy now. I'm going to put myself out there. I'm in my mid-30s and I'm a mom, but I never thought of it that way. I was so judged. Your friends start to disown you and they like fat Carrie better. She's safe. And now this new sexy Carrie, she's weird. Keep her away from your husbands.
Somebody actually said to me, if you lose any more weight, no one's going to want to talk to you. And she was joking, but she wasn't. And I knew it. And that's the thing is, one of the reasons why it threatens them is whether you start a business, lose weight, or do anything that's a change, make an improvement, it really pisses off people that know that they want to make a change and they don't know how. And sometimes they don't make a change because they're really afraid of what, like, their mother, their sister, their husband, their church, their PTA group, like whoever is going to think of them. Like, what if they changed? Because we want to be able to depend on people, but you're still who you are. You
Hmm.
just are different. Like you're improving. And I'm going to be changing until the day I die. That's just the way it's going to be. I'm always going to be learning every single day and morphing into like a newer version of myself. But I definitely feel like my truest self now than I've ever been,
Yeah.
which is an awesome feeling.
It is a good feeling to be comfortable in your own skin. It's like the story with the bucket of crabs when you're trying to climb your way out, they're all pulling you back down. It was exactly that. I remember doing a fabulous photo shoot and I felt so good about myself. I was healthier, I was fit, and one of my best friends said, "You look sick. I can't believe you. Are you bulimic or all these things?" And if you saw these photos, you would laugh because I just looked like a muscular woman, not at all, sticky, skinny, or unhealthy, but to her, because she was so used to me in a different size, was
Mhm.
immediately attacking me, and it hurt because she was my best friend, and I was like, wow, I can't handle that. I got to think about what I'm trying to do for myself. So it's
But I'd
interesting you
also,
pointed that out.
but I'd also like to take the focus so much off of like the body itself because it's like the idea, like with writing the book Sexpot with stretch marks, the title came out of I call myself the silly, sassy, spiritual sexpot because I feel like we all have contradictions to ourselves, and like that's just what makes us cool. I hate when someone seems like the kids channels on TV. I won't say the names, but like the moms on there are always like so like this one-dimensional character, and I'm like, no, we're all so complex. And so I get to be all of that. I don't have to be just one thing. And I wrote a blog for the Huffington Post, and it was about like people would see a picture of me in my bikini, and if you've ever lost a lot of weight, you're like, I earned the right to wear this bikini, and you don't get to tell me otherwise.
That's right.
And so people saying like, you look good for having 5 kids, or you look good for just having a baby. We just smack me in the face with a compliment, and it's like I will never say to a woman, you look great for your age. It's
Hmm.
like it's just not. I just say you look so great, and so it's the idea that we don't say that to men. We never say that to men. And actually, like if you look at some male actors, like the older they get, the more we're like he looks distinguished and regal, and
Yes.
we're not allowed to age. And I feel like I want to shatter all that, all the illusion of that, because even the women that we see on magazines, that's not anything what they look like. So we don't even have a comprehension of what a healthy woman looks like as she gets older. And we don't have to erase everything. Like if people do plastic surgery, that's totally up to them. I'm not against anybody doing anything that makes them happy. But for me, if I feel like I have to change everything about my physicality, to me that feels wrong because to me it feels like I'm not really loving myself. And somebody was saying recently to me, they were like as they get older, she was like, I'm kind of excited to see what I'm going to look like. And I was like, how crazy is that? What if everybody thought like that?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just interested to see what I'm going to turn into.
Yep. We're
Like,
all
just
trying to freeze the
wild.
clock instead.
I
We're all
know,
trying to go
and
backwards.
I know, and like, I would never in a million years go back to my 20s. Never. I didn't
Well,
know shit.
I saw your Throwback Thursday picture, so I don't blame you. Just kidding.
No, but I mean, like, she didn't know who she was. Like, you look at, like, she was trying to be a good mom, but she didn't realize that, like, being a good mom was never going to be enough for her. Like, it was just not. And for some women, like, they love the whole home aspect. I do think that to any moms that are, listening, it's not about, like, you're less than if you're a stay-at-home mom. I couldn't stand when people would say, "Oh, what do you do all day?" You were like, "What?" Or like that's not valued. Of course it's valued. Like you're valuable because everyone's valuable. Everyone has equal value in my eyes. But I do think that besides your children and your husband and your home really, you should have some hobby that whether it's even exercise or yoga or surfing or knitting or anything that is outside of your family because your husband, hopefully you'll be with your husband, for life, but your kids are, hopefully they're not going to live with you for the rest of your life because they're going to grow up. And so your role is going to change. And I knew that when I was that overweight woman, I was like, if I don't get my stuff together now, when they get older, I'm going to not know who I am and I'm going to lose that. And it's the same as even like, do you identify with your job too much? Like there's a way of identifying with all your roles that are just unhealthy. Like what do you say when you first meet people? Do you say like I'm a mom of five? Do you? And I guess I would say I was a writer first. And I can't ever imagine not writing, but that's because it's a passion for me. It's not just a job, it's a passion. And so I think we should all have passions because that's what life is for. The passion factor, right? If you're not passionate, something you've got to find a passion.
That's right.
I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yes. I lost myself in my marriage and my child, and I snapped. So, I'm all for your mission, and I'm all for this book because it is an amazing book that shines a light on all the areas that Hollywood and everything else and the cosmopolitan magazines and Elle are trying to take away. And you're shining a light on that stuff and then saying it's okay. I was reading it last night. I was reading some of your book, and I love all of it. It's just amazing how, and I never thought about those compliments that way. I thought it was me. I'm like, why am I taking this the wrong way? The "you look good for your age" comment was always kind of, I don't like that. That didn't sit well.
I know but people don't even know. See, that's the thing is, I just want to get people to think. Like, I don't need people to think like me. Because I love when even something that I don't necessarily agree with makes me even think, and I have to say, is this my truth? Is there a shade of this truth in here? And I especially love if something triggers me, and I'm like, ooh, where did that trigger me? Like you and I have talked about healing the buttons factor. Abraham Hicks, there was somebody posted about Abraham Hicks, one of the law of attraction things that I follow, and it was like, when people push your buttons, like if they're not there, they can't push them, so heal the buttons. And it's like, oh my goodness, like I remember people would say to me this one thing, which is, you're going to laugh, and it used to get me so mad, and here's the methodology that went along with it. When people would, specifically men, sometimes would be threatened by my, like, being a vegetarian. I don't know why. Or just being like a little firecracker. Like, who is this little 5-foot ball of, weirdness? And I was even trying to not be weird, but I think everyone always knew I was weird. But it's like they would say that I talked a lot. And you know what I heard? I heard that what I had to say was not important.
Yep.
And that makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
But in my mind, when they would say that, I would just automatically, I'd clam up, I'd want to hide, I'd want to, like, literally die, and I would just, like, I would be like, oh, I should just shut up. Like, what I have to say is so stupid. And, like, all of this, story. And funny enough, in 7th grade, I got in trouble for talking in class. Shocker. And I was in the hallway, and listen, it was supposed to be like metal shop or wood shop or something, and I think it was metal shop. And like for some reason that semester, we had to do mechanical drawing. I felt a little gypped, okay? So I was talking in class, and I'm in the hallway, and I'm humiliated because I'm like a good kid, And this one administrator walks down the hallway, and she said, "What are you doing in the hallway?" And I was like, I got in trouble for talking. And you know what she said to me? I'll never forget it. She said, "One day that's going to get you somewhere in life."
Amen to that, sister.
Isn't that crazy? And I was like, yeah, take that shit.
Exactly.
I was like, oh yeah.
That's right. She just inspired me to talk more. It's true. That's what I do for a living now. Thank you. I express myself.
I know. But it's funny because it's hard to really feel like you can have a voice sometimes if people are going to judge you. And like the idea of my book cover being not photoshopped is so like revolutionary. Like I contacted the Huffington Post and sent them an article today because it's like there's going to be people that are going to be like, oh my God, that's so ugly. And really, like if someone says, I'm not saying somebody has to say that, but if they were to say that, I get to be like to my body, like, I love you so much. And like if I ever have that trip up of thought where I'm just like, oh, this should be different, or, my stomach, I'll be like, oh, I feel a little bloated because I ate something like, that didn't sit right with me. That to me is a cue to be like, oh, I love you so much. Because like this body, I came into this earth with this body, and I'm going to leave with this earth with this body. And like God gave me this body, not anybody else's. And this is the perfect body for me, the very perfect body for me. And like when you change your idea, the idea for all of this started changing in my mind when I kept saying, like, how can I word this to women that they'll really get it? And I always love to talk in metaphors, whether it's to my clients or my friends. You know me, I'm always with the metaphors. I was like, man, what if we were to look back on, like I look back on my own pictures now, that kind of experience, like when we're 80 years old and we look at ourselves now and we'll be like, oh my God, we were so hot. Kind of like when you look back on your teens and you're like, I should have been walking into school in a bikini.
Exactly.
Hat, Yeah. So I was like, what if you were 80? Like, how would you look at yourself now? And what if you could step into that version and own it now? And or if like you look at someone who has cancer and they just got that diagnosis and you're sitting here talking about your thighs and they would be like, shut up, like you have a healthy body, like it's a miracle. And if you think about it, like I don't know how all of this works. Like I'm speaking, I'm breathing, my heart is pumping, like it's magic. It is magic. There's nothing that's more magical than that. And when you start to think of it differently, not everybody's going to get it. I know that people, like friends of mine, they're always like, okay, whatever she's talking about. But that's where sometimes you have to spread your circle out differently. You have to find people that are more like-minded. And I won't entertain conversations about hating bodies. Like, to me, that's the most boring thing. I can't stand chit-chat. That is not expansive. I want to be growing. I want to hear about, like, what your challenges are so we can shift them. And you know me, I'm like, call me out on my stuff. If you hear me saying something that doesn't sound right, I'm never like, oh, Carrie, no, I know what I'm doing. I'm a life coach, thank you. I'm always like, no, it's feedback, like, and I know you are too, which is like, it doesn't make us vulnerable. It actually makes us so brave because we're willing to be honest. And you can't shift things. Like when I first get a client, I need to know, and this is what I want everyone to always know, is that like just take stock of where you're at. And when you take stock of where you're at, out of like a loving place, kind of like hold your hand like you would your best friend and you say, okay, honey, like you are so strong. And like it's amazing that you've gone to this place. And like there's nothing to be scared of. Like we're going to figure this out. And we're going to have so much fun. And let's just like, what do we want to create from here? Like where do we want to go from here? There's no shame in your past. There's nothing to be ashamed of. And just like treat yourself like you would your best friend.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Nothing's more painful than hearing a woman rip herself apart. I hate my hair. I hate my shoes. I can't believe I did this. I hate my legs. I had a good friend of mine that would just sit in the mirror before us going out every night together. We were a lot younger, and she would just rip apart every body part. And it was like, you're talking about my best friend. Me, just the bleeding heart. Like, can you stop ripping yourself apart? And I don't think they even notice the mindless chatter as they're just slowly just beating themselves up.
It's that voice that they have that they don't realize that they're in charge, not that voice. Mm-hmm. And this is where yoga was a huge eye-opener for me, is that when you first have to sit still and you have a very busy mind and maybe you have anxiety and you're sitting there and you're like, well, what do you mean I can't turn that off? And then like in meditation they would be like, use a little like dust brush, like, and brush those thoughts away, or just imagine like counting sheep, like those thoughts just going by. And then I just imagined I was like a character in Disney World, and like I was like the eye observer, like just observing, and I was like, man, like I am not that voice. And when you disconnect from that voice and you get to say like, I can question that voice at any point and say, is that really true? And like, what voice could I take in place of that? And that's where like you soften it, where if she's really mean, you're not necessarily going to have this new peppy cheerleader girl come in and say, you're awesome. But you just get to do the best friend type of thing to be like, you know what? We're doing all right. Like, we're doing the best that we can. And that's the softening space of that, like, okay. And then just try to figure out one thing that they like about themselves and hold on to that. And sometimes, like, that's where the spiritual component comes in, because sometimes you kind of have to love yourself, you have to just acknowledge that God loves you first, like, all the way. And that goes hand in hand. To me, self-love is the most spiritual act you can ever do. Because why would this divine creator create you and then expect you to hate yourself? It literally makes no sense. So if you can look at it as like one of the mantras that, and affirmations that I love, which takes us out of the equation in the having to love ourselves, but if you try this on enough, man, it feels so good. And it's, I'm always loved and divinely supported, or I'm loved and divinely, I'm always divinely loved and supported. And it's like, I'm always loved and divinely supported. And you think about your life and you're like, man, if I could just look at even the challenges that I had and all those times to just be like, oh my God, I was so loved and I was always supported. And it's just like, it's almost like when I first started to get that, it was a little overwhelming. Like I would sit there at the beach and I knew you at the mountains, and it's like, you kind of take in how much God loves you and you realize why people can't accept that. Because it's like, well, wait a minute, what about that time I did that thing, or that said that thing, or whatever? And it's like, no. You imagine with your daughter and me with my children, them ever coming to me saying, I don't love you. You might not like what they do, but you would always love them. That's why the idea of a conditional God never made sense for me, because I was like, no, it's never ending. It's never going to stop. And I equate that to my children about, and this is analogy for God, is that like it's not like a faucet. I say mommy can't turn her love off like the faucet. It's like the ocean. It's always flowing. And if you can just imagine that, and when you get closer to that God self within you, you don't even have to worry about the ego and vilifying that or killing it or whatever, because we have light and we have shadow. But instead of trying to like be a goody two-shoes, when you do that, it's like you're being conditional with you. Instead of being like, I'm going to love the wholeness that I am. I'm going to love all of myself. It's just this, that's how I roll.
I'm going to love myself without makeup.
Exactly. I've done that. I've actually gone out in public without makeup just as like a check-in with myself of that, like, okay, if I run into some people, okay. And of course you run into people. And
Yes.
I've also done that where like if I'm eating too clean and then I got to eat something bad just to keep ourselves all in check here. Like, because we know people that eat like super healthy and they always look great, and it's like, well, it's easy to love themselves. But that's why I also, when I look at like my 20s and stuff, I look at, sometimes I think I made so many mistakes, so that way I really had to love myself. Because there's people that, if you look at their life story, like they haven't really made a whole lot of mistakes. So there's nothing really to forgive themselves for. But if you've made like epic mistakes or like just been like such like in dark places, it's like you have so much more to climb. But yet, man, it's like, just imagine climbing a little hill and you're like, yeah, we climbed this little hill. But when you climb that mountain and you look down and you're like, oh my God, we're here. This is amazing. You're waving at everybody and you're like, come on up, you know?
Yep, exactly.
I know
exactly.
You get me. That's one of the reasons why we connect. We started talking to each other and we're like, yeah, God was laughing when we got connected together.
It's like these soulmate sisters have been apart for too long. Let's connect them.
I know. And when I first saw you, I was just like, oh my God, she's so beautiful. I was like, and you're beautiful, but like, that's the thing is that there's certain people that I'm attracted to, like physically because of their light, but then it's like when you get to know them, you know why you were attracted to them.
Absolutely.
Is their heart. And that's where if you can focus on loving yourself and being a really happy, kind person, there is nothing prettier than that.
Mm-hmm.
I know you were at this red carpet event last night, and you know what pretty looks like and what beautiful looks like. And sometimes you can meet somebody's grandma, and you're like, she is the most beautiful person I've ever met in my life, and she just shines. Like,
yes.
And would she be on the cover of a magazine? Why couldn't she be? I actually would love to see something like that, you know?
Right.
Because that is beautiful.
Yeah, I saw lots of superficial too that had a very low dim light, because I can see everyone's light too, like you, and I didn't want to connect with them, but I sat next to some amazing people. One guy used to be the pitcher for the Yankees, and his wife, and their light was just vibrant.
You look so pretty. You look so pretty. I loved it.
She had this cute little glittery handbag. I said, your handbag matches my shoes. Can I have your handbag? She's like, no, I want your shoes. It was so cute.
Oh.
It was so cute. It was sweet. But it was like the heaviness, superficial stuff that I just don't relate to. And I know I wouldn't be very pretty if I didn't have love, consistently, filling my heart, and what can I do? And it was a great charity event, and John Walsh was speaking about, all the children, murders that they've solved, and just horrible things that obviously happen, but that's his mission. And that part, lightened me up, of course, of all the people they've helped. But overall, yeah. I mean, I want you to go a little bit deeper, because self-love is great, and some people on the outside that don't get what we're talking about and probably don't even realize they're doing this to themselves. But how important is it to love yourself? I mean, talk about how it changes the whole world around you, not just, okay, I love myself and I can like what I see in the mirror now, but how the vibration totally shifts in your whole life.
Well, loving yourself is like really easy to say that, but it's like it shows up at different times. Like when you screw up, like there's been times where I've forgotten something with the kids, and that's like we have those Achilles heels. So it's like we can get to the place where we're like, okay, I have acceptance of my thighs, and I accept this, and I accept that. But then like those triggers where like, whether it's with your partner, whether it's with your kids, and you feel like you screwed up, and you automatically go into like that mean bitch voice comes up, and she's like, I have the mic again, and she tells you all this nasty stuff. So self-love is like it's not skin deep. It's like it goes deep down. Like when you feel like you hurt somebody, or like, with your kids, you feel like you let them down, you go into like this really weird space, and you have to pull yourself back up again. And that's hard. That's the challenges. And you're going to get to a place where like you love yourself, but you're always going to have triggers, because you're always going to be growing, and you don't want to ever try to feel like you have to get to the space where you like ascend beyond all of this. I mean, we see all these great speakers. You and I know some of them. And everyone talks a great talk, but like one of my things is that I always want to make sure people know that I'm authentic and I share my challenges. I know you share yours. And I don't ever like, complain about them, but I'll share what I got out of it because I don't want to be somebody where they're like, I want to be like Jenny. Don't ever want to be like me or like anybody else. Want to be like you. I wanted to be like Wayne Dyer. And I remember like reading his stuff and I was like, all like, I'm Ben. And like the kids are at school and I was like, it's finally, I got it. And then they come home and I'm like, I had a great day until you came home. I can't stand you guys. And then I'd be like, oh shit, I'm not Wayne Dyer. And I would be like in my laundry room and I'm like, why can't we get it? And it was like, I just thought like if I tried so hard, I would never be angry again. I would just be this totally different person. And then I had to just accept the fact that, okay, part of my anger is my passionate side. And we just need to learn to channel it in different ways. And when we get angry, because we get angry here, and like I always say, like love is messy. It's not like on TV. So if I say something to the kids, I definitely have said to the kids, I'm really sorry I acted like an asshole. And I know that a lot of parents think that that's probably weird, but I want them to know that. I want them to know that like mommy shouldn't have done that. I want them to know that when I'm not practicing what I preach, that I correct it. And then I tell them like what I do care about, about them. Because I have 5 kids. That's 5 different triggers for me at any given moment. And so for me to think that I'm going to always be perfect 100% of the time, and it's just not possible. Like I know when I'm in my zone what that feels like. It's so awesome. But then there's another side. And there's, the parts of life that challenge me. And that's where like, the self-love, if I didn't have that, I would be back to like every day was a roller coaster. It felt like such a roller coaster. And the biggest thing about self-love with our daughters is that, they say, like, don't talk about yourself so that your daughters, like, hear you, ripping apart your big butt and all that, like the way women do. Well, I say, because everything's energetic, you and I know that, is that talk about your daughter the way you want her to see herself. Because on a vibrational level, we can say whatever we want, but everybody picks up on us. And so I do believe that when you can raise your vibration, like sometimes you're not going to be able to reach millions, and not everybody has to reach millions, but if you can raise your vibration up and everybody else raises their vibration up, like when you raise your vibration up, you affect your family, your friends, like everybody in your world that comes in contact with you. And because I believe in that everything is energetic, and I actually wrote a funny thing about that, like, people that don't understand energy, and it's like, I don't need to stick my finger in the socket in order to like trust that there's electricity in there. So it's the same as that, like, just imagine, like, when you come from the self-love place, then the side effects of that are weight loss, our happiness, our businesses. I mean, it's just because people want to do weight loss first, and it's like, no, that has to be a side effect. And so it's like this ripple effect. And just on the social media, I always spread joy. And if I'm at the grocery store, I try to spread joy. Even if like my kids are driving me crazy, like, I try to spread joy in life. And it's like, just imagine like those seeds going out into the world energetically, like how amazing that is. And when I got to that place too, is I would just like pray for the world and like really just on a soul level think about like how much I loved the world. And I remember like first started blogging about that, and people would be like, even murders? And I'm like, oh my God, like, because when you really know that your spirituality is like the foundation of everything, like everything shifts. And it's almost like self-love becomes something that that it's your responsibility to like the world, to love yourself, and what that ripple effect is. Like, I wouldn't be happy without the basis of self-love and my spirituality. So it's like the idea of which comes first, self-love or happiness. And I think it's like the chicken or the egg, because if you focus on being happy, then it's like vibrationally, you just imagine it to be like a cup. And when you fill up your cup with good vibes, then you're going to be happy and you're going to love yourself. So it's like a win-win. Because I really don't know that there's an answer, because everybody goes at it a little bit different. What would you say? What do you think is first? Because I think that it's kind of like they just kind of go together.
They do. They're definitely hand in hand. And I agree with you. I think, I did wellness coaching. I started there 10 years ago, and I always started with self-love. Can you imagine what the show Biggest Loser would be like if they actually focused on the self-love portion through the whole show instead of just beating them up at the gym? It's like I would scream at the TV. They're gonna go home and go back to their patterns because they don't love themselves. So it's the core. It's the complete core to every awesome thing you want to happen in your life, whether it's relationships, your business success, attracting the right clients, setting that bar really, really high of how you want the world to see you and treat you, getting that standard up, because if you don't love yourself, they're going to come down and meet you at that level that you're at every time. And it is huge. And I had to catch myself. I'll be a little vulnerable. Last night at the red carpet event, I left feeling like a princess. I was super happy. I was texting you, and I could feel just kind of the energy of everything because I'm super sensitive of the strip and a full, venue. There's probably 2,500 people there. And immediately in the bathroom, I see someone. I recognize her, but I don't know who she is. And immediately I went into the comparison game. I'm like, okay, she's got a rock hard body. Make this girl go away. She makes me feel insecure. And she just kept coming. And she walked with me all the way to the venue. And then she stood next to me and asked, do you want to go on the carpet with me? And I'm like, get her away from me. Just go away, you and your stripper-looking body. Just go away from me. And she's like, wanted to be my best friend all night. It's kind of interesting. The one thing you don't want, you're like pulling it into you. And I'm like, Carrie, just know your truth. You are your own unique self. You're your own light. She gets to be who she is. I get to be who I am. And just own it. I almost started to give her my wand of power. And I'm like, no, I'm taking that back. I'm going to have a good night and just own myself. So it's so interesting, even those little triggers, but at least now I'm aware of it. And the old Carrie, of course, would have ruined her whole night. She would have been miserable. She would leave early and just let that take over. But the new Carrie's like, no, she gets to be her. She's her own self, and I get to be me. And that's how it works. But comparison is a deadly game, definitely.
Oh, my goodness. And, I think that one point that I gave a talk about one time was about reinvention. And how, you and I reinvented ourselves big time. You can physically see it. But you're going to have to reinvent yourself a couple different times in your life. When you go off to college and when you get married and when you have children and whether you change jobs or get divorced or any of these times that you have to reinvent yourself. And one of them is when people reinvent themselves in a business environment and they go into a new office and they look around and they take stock and whether it's men or women, they see somebody in the corner office and they're like, oh my God, they're so good at their job. I want that. And I don't think that's a bad thing to notice that what that person does well or that you want that to be a goal. But what happens is that if we focus on whether it's business or whether it's just with other women, if we focus on the good thing about them, then we're going to energetically be not in our own lane running our own race. And we're going to lose our steam. And we're going to be so focused on them, we're going to trip up. When if we could just say, okay, I observe that. I observe that they're awesome at that. And I can observe things that are awesome about you, but it doesn't affect me. I'm like, that's so awesome. So then coming back to our own center and then realizing that if we focus on what we're good at and cultivating our own skills and honing in on them, that there might be an aspect within us that would actually make us go beyond them in the company even. Not that your goal would be to get bigger than them, but your goal would be to be your best self. And if you focused on just you and what skills you have, because sometimes there's a skill that somebody has that no matter how hard you try, you are not going to get that skill. And that might sound not nice about people with their dreams, but it's just not everybody's built to do the same thing. That's like me trying to make myself become an accountant. Why would I do that to myself? But in my mind, there were certain things that were of value. I thought people that were accountants were smarter than people that were like me who were a writer. This is just the limiting beliefs that I had about my own intelligence. So when I decided to live my own life and focused on my creativity and what was good about me, you don't even pay attention to what is so awesome about somebody else other than just admiring it and saying good for you. But it doesn't have anything to do with you. It doesn't take away value from yourself at all, which is so empowering to know, because that comparison game, remember doing that with friends and stuff, and it's you can never be friends with somebody, truly friends with somebody, if you feel like there's only so much mojo and good stuff to go around.
Exactly. And like you always say, run your own race. I like that.
Exactly. And we know that we live in an abundant universe, so it's if something good happens for you, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's so awesome. And I wish people would even take away this, is that when something good happens for somebody else, don't think they got my piece of the pie. think like because they got that it's possible for me too. That's how I like to look at it.
Yes, and you get to have your own pie. You don't even have to have a piece. You can have your own damn pie.
We are going to have our cake and eat it too, right?
That's right. That's right.
With some champagne.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, the comparison game for me when it came to like success, it was more of I'm inspired. Like, wow, that's possible. I can do that too. Thank you for showing me that that's a possibility. High five that you got to do that. You know, it's just such a negative, heavy space to be. I want his stuff, her stuff. I need to have their life. No, go get it yourself. They're just showing you that it's possible, you know, more than anything. And it is painful to watch, you know, a woman in her 40s and even older still doing those games. You think, like we hear this all the time, by my age, I should know this by now. You know, I should have gotten past this by now. But, you know, those little teenage voices in our heads from those insecure days show up still. So get to create a new path every day. That's how it works.
Surround yourself with people that inspire you in a good way and that cheer you on. Not just people that you can like look up to, but people that are going to honor your awesomeness.
True. My clients always laugh when I tell them, you wouldn't have recognized me 10 years ago. You know, I was a stay-at-home mom and very overweight and very timid and shy, and the thought of even talking on camera would have been like the last thing I would have wanted to do ever, much less public speaking or doing any live events. They're like, no, that's not you. I'm like, no, what you're seeing is a work in progress. Anybody can evolve into their better, greater self, always. So anything's possible.
You can change your life. You really can change your life.
I love it when you post your Throwback Thursday pictures on Facebook.
I know,
like, that is not Jenny.
I know. And look, I'm like, Wonder Woman. Like,
that's right.
This kind of goes along with, like, I would call myself a bedazzled hippie at times. And this is totally fitting of bedazzled hippie because I love certain things about being, like, hippie-ish, but then I'm, like, fashionista and, like, the contradiction factor. You get to be anything.
That's right. I love it. I love it.
Just like the Sexpot with stretch marks. Contradiction, right?
That's right. That's right. And my first thoughts, too, because I didn't know you well, when you posted those pictures was, oh, my God, she's so brave. That's my first thought was she's so brave. Mm-hmm. You know, I just wanted to virtual high-five you. You kick ass.
But you know what? That's the thing is that, like, I don't even feel brave. Like, because I've just gotten to the place where it's like when you just own who you are, when someone says you're brave, it's like you're brave for showing those pictures or wearing a bikini when you have stretch marks. And I'm just like, I'm actually kind of glad that I don't feel brave anymore because it means that I've integrated it so much in me where it's just like, it's my normal. It's my new normal. It really is. And just honestly, the braver thing for me was to first start blogging and to actually share my voice because that felt like I was more naked than anything. I felt like when I first blogged like 4 years ago, I was like, what are people going to think? They're going to think I'm weird. Like, I'm not going to fit in anymore. Like, what if I say something that they don't, or also my validation and approval came from outside. So if somebody were to like what I posted, then my value went up. And if they didn't, but it's like I had to just like cut all those cords to everybody outside of myself physically. And that's the thing is that like the bikini thing, that was so much fun. I love photo shoots. And I could be like, okay, edit all that out. Edit all my stretch marks. But, like, that's who I am at the beach. And when you meet me at the beach, I'm going to give you a hug, and I'm going to fill you up with love. And that's, you know, I want people to focus on that about me, not counting my stretch marks, which are just my goddess tattoos to go along with my other tattoos.
That's right. And that beautiful body gave birth to 5 kids. I mean, you got to think of it that way, you know?
Exactly. Yes. It's
Yeah.
Perfect for me.
Yes. God knew you were a firecracker. You wouldn't have fit in any other body. You had to be this little tiny redhead. It's like, let me see. She's like this. Let's pair her with perfect. Boom, firecracker.
I know. People, when they find out I'm 5 foot, they're like, you're 5 foot? I'm like, yep.
But my energy's 10 feet, so
Exactly.
That's where the confusion comes from. We're like, what?
Well, you know what? I think God was like, she won't intimidate people when we
That's right.
Because I'll stand next to somebody and I'm like, oh, hi. I'm like, I didn't. And they'll like rest their hand on my head and I'm just like, okay.
That's awesome.
Little kids are talking down to me and I'm just like, it's okay. I own it.
I'll just pick you up and put you in my pocket.
Exactly.
Take a little Jenny everywhere I go. That's right. I could use you in my pocket some days. God
Well, I
protect
am in your pocket, right? You text me and I text back, and I'm like,
That's true.
okay, here's what's going on. Do you want feedback?
That's right. That's
I'm your
right.
lifeline, right? I'm your lifeline.
Yes, yes. You were always with me. That's what I love. So awesome. So tell us, do you tell the audience, besides this fabulous book, and if you don't go get it, just go get it. It's so good. I hated that I had to put it down last night. It was like going on 2 in the morning. I'm like, this is good shit. And
Oh, man.
I have to talk too about your own your selfie. You are the queen of selfies. In fact, I almost wore red lipstick just to honor Jenny. You and your lipstick, it's like your trademark. I love it. But talk about selfies just for a minute, and just kind of
Well,
why people are so weird about that.
well, the funny part is I like if I met me a few years ago, I'd be like, who does she think she is? Like I would be like, why does she post so many selfies? And really, this is where like we should always try to understand people more. And my whole thing about selfies is I like to take pictures. And I used to feel like I had to explain myself, and explaining is draining, number one.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember hearing Stevie Nicks talk about she used to take Polaroid selfies, and I was like, see, like she gets it. And was anybody like, who does Stevie Nicks think she is? And it's because the fun of it. Like, I love creating a look. And like we all have these dreams of like, oh, wouldn't it be great to be a model when we're kids, because when we're adults, a lot of times we don't even let ourselves entertain that. We're like, even try edgy looks because what will our friends think? Like, So for me, I'm like, okay, I want to do like an Audrey Hepburn type of look. Let me do that and let me take a selfie. And it's for my own enjoyment and it's for the fun of it. And when you make it about that and you just take literally when I post a selfie, I do not think about a single other soul about whether they're going to like it or not. Like, it's for fun. It's like a verb to me. It's just, and some people think that it's vain, and it's like, okay, but that's a flawed thinking that what everyone's idea of posting a selfie is. When really, I could say, well, if you don't post a selfie, you don't love yourself. Well, that's not true either, because maybe somebody's Facebook profile picture is a cat because they love their cat, or maybe they don't want people to see their face. I'm not going to project onto them. And I'm definitely not going to project that if people don't take a lot of selfies that they don't love themselves. Maybe they just don't enjoy that. I enjoy that. I was digging in my mom's Estee Lauder makeup kit with the teal eyeshadow back in the 80s, and I was like putting on her high heels. So this is who I always was. But I didn't let myself be that girl for a long time because what will they think? And It's like, well, what they think has to do with their perception. So somebody perceiving my selfie, it doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm just going to keep doing my thing and having fun with it. And it's like, there's no harm in what I'm doing with my selfies. So if you worry about it or you have like this, I shouldn't do this or something, it's like, oh, wow, that's about them. I posted a poster one time and it was like, what you say about others speaks volumes about yourself. Mm-hmm. So when you limit somebody else that they shouldn't do this or that they should act this way, like say for instance, like, with this, like, somebody be like, oh, well, who does she think she's 20 or whatever? I'm 37. I'm going to be 38 this year. And I say, like, with your style, all those things that's like, okay, what to wear in your 30s, what to wear in your 40s, I say throw that shit out. You get to wear whatever you want. And if somebody's like, she's trying to look young, what if she's just trying to, like, find her style? Like, we do all these things. And it's like, I never say to somebody, well, she's trying to look young. Why do I know what she's trying to do? And why does it have anything to do with me? Minding my own business totally serves me because, like, I'm a benefit to other people when I don't get into what they should be doing. But when you're all about what somebody else should be doing, you're taking the attention away from yourself. And if you place all these limitations on other people, it's only because you place them on yourself.
Right. Life is a mirror. Yes.
Exactly. And I'm always loving on people's selfies. Like, I love people's pictures. I love them. I want to see more of them.
Me too. I like it because I feel like you took me into the moment. You pulled me into your life that day.
I love when I see somebody who feels good at that moment. Mm-hmm. Like whether they're with their kids or whether they're taking a selfie, it's just so fun. Like, I love that. Because sometimes you see like a magazine and like it's somebody's like magazine cover or whatever, and like they don't really seem like they're having that much fun. And it's not about smile or not. It's just about like that's probably their job. Like it's probably not that fun.
Right, it's uncomfortable.
But if somebody's taking a selfie and they're like Kim Kardashian, and you're just like, work it, girl. Like, that's how I feel. I'm always like, go, girl. And I love saying that to them and then letting them know that their beauty is acknowledged. And just like, that's just such a beautiful gift to give other women.
Yes, I agree. I like it because I can feel the energy. I mean, they might be at Disneyland with their kids and they're taking a quick selfie, or here I am, it's a gorgeous day and here's the mountains behind me selfie. I do it too, I think, because I want to capture the moment. I do it probably for the same reasons as you. I'm doing it for myself. I don't care who's looking or who's clicking like.
Hmm.
I'm trying to capture this moment because it's a good day and I want to feel it again when I go back and kind of go down memory lane. So,
But I had in order to get into that space, I had to kick all the other people out of my head,
yes.
all the other people's ideas, because had all these ideas of what will they think, and it's like, you know what? I've said this to many people many times, is that all these people that you like are worried about what they're going to think, a lot of them you're not going to know them in 5 years. You're not going to work with them. Your kids aren't going to be friends. Like, they're not going to be in your world in 5 years. And when you think of it that way, you're like, wow, how much power did he give to other people that really truly didn't matter in the grand scheme of things? Because your true girlfriends, the people that really love you, they're like, I'm along for the ride. Like, I didn't come just for like, this version of you. It came for all of you. I came to see you evolve as a person.
Right.
It's just like when you change jobs. Like, why would anybody not love you if you change jobs? So why can't you change aspects of yourself?
Truth. I'm still Carrie.
Yes. I'm still Jenny from the block. Used to have a little, now I have a lot. No.
You are so Jenny from the block. You knocked her right off her pedestal.
I know.
You might have to climb up onto her pedestal to knock her off because you're so tiny.
Oh, that's too funny. I know. I do like to rock a jailer where I'll do like a bonnet and a hoop, but it's like more like Jersey. Like, yes. I remember I posted something like that, and they were like, I don't like that look. And I remember being like, okay, well, thanks for that. Thanks for that tidbit. Like, because I guess the ponytail and hoops were not glam enough or whatever. People crack me up.
Yes, they're funny. It's all good. I love that you play. It's so much fun. You're fun to watch for sure. So tell the people that are listening, do you work with clients? How can they get in touch with Jenny? I mean, what else do you do besides writing?
Well, first of all, I just have to share this. This just came to mind. A girlfriend of mine was on a date, and she was going away for a week on a weekend with a guy, and her one girlfriend was like, "Where are the hoops? Like, that you can't go wrong with like a bottle of wine, hoops, and a deck of cards." And I was like, it sounds like it belongs in a movie, or like I'll have to use that in my next novel. Because I do have a novel that'll be coming out called BS. I just have to finish. It's like 200 pages versus my last novel, The Jennifers, was like 500 pages. So I'll have to see like what more I want to it. But that's like I want to finish this, and then I'll get into that when I feel like the time for it. I don't want to be somebody who cranks out things just for the sake of cranking out, because I enjoy writing. And like when you put something to sleep, like put it to bed, it's kind of like, oh, I missed the Jennifers. So yes, I'm going to be designing a program, but that's not out just yet. So they can find me on my website at jennygperry.com and on social media where I blog, on a regular basis. I'm on all social media as Jenny G. Perry. And I do have a few exclusive clients that I take on to work with, on a monthly basis. So if they would like to, have a discovery call or see if we're a good fit for one another, because I think that you and I know with coaching, to be a good coach, you need to either be in a mastermind or get your own coaching. And whether it's even coaching to do programs, like you should really be trying to like up your game. And if you don't have the right coach, it's not really going to do as much. So you should always make sure you're a great fit, and that your ideal client is a match with the ideal coach for them. So exactly. I think that's super important, because there's so many great coaches out there, and I'm going to be somebody's cup of tea, and I'm going to be somebody else's shot of tequila. Like, it might be too much, because I do work with people on a more not in your face, but you know how I am. I'm honest, but with super love. Like, there's no toughness, but there's no BS. Like, I don't want to take somebody from the bottom who's going to be like hating themselves and take them to the middle. I'm like, if you're coachable, I want to take you to the top and get you to really love yourself and do the work. It's always fun working with people that are going to do the work, because me and you are kind of like, yes, let's get in, let's wrestle our stuff, like let's, because we want to let go and release what no longer serves us. And so it's not about like that we need to fix ourselves, but it's just kind of like to be freer energetically wise, and to be lighter, and to be more connected with who you truly are.
Absolutely. Yes, Jenny takes a very selective with her clients, but that you can work with her if you're a good fit. Gotta
If
be a
not,
good
I'll
fit.
find somebody for you.
I know. That's what I always say. If it doesn't work out, I've got so many coach friends. I'll
I
find a
know.
spot for
I
you.
know.
I'll find a spot for you. That's
We
beautiful.
attract rock stars, right? We attract rock
That's right.
stars.
That's right. That's just the nature of the beast. It's good stuff. Well, let's wrap it up. It is 11:11 my time, so let's all make a wish. Pacific time. But we could talk for hours. Obviously, Jenny is a soul sister of mine, and we just adore one another to pieces. She's just unfortunately on the other side of the coast. I'm on one coast, she's on another. But we're going to meet in the middle one of these days. We will be connected physically more often, I'm sure,
Yes.
in the future. For sure.
I got a big hug for you, girl.
Well, guys, those that are listening, you can reach Jenny. I will have many links in the body of the YouTube videos for you to connect with her, follow her, go to her website, and of course the link to the book Sexpot with stretch marks, which is awesome. And even just posting that, I stirred the pot, and some people got offended by the word sexpot. I'm like, really? Just own it. Just own it, peeps. It's all good.
No, a guy got offended by the word fierce, like that the tagline is fierce musings. And I'm like, he's like, why you have to be fierce? And I'm like, I am fierce. Who's not fierce?
Fierce is good. It's in your face. That's right. So any final thoughts, Jenny, for our audience before we wrap up?
I just want people to, anybody who's listening, I want them to just really try to digest the fact that they are awesome. Like, really try that on. No matter where you're at in life, no matter what's happened to you, what you've done, your regrets, anything, just try on. Just for size, just try it on today, and just try on the fact that you are awesome and that you have value. And when I say everybody's rock stars, I do believe everyone's a rock star. Does that mean that they're going to sell out concert halls? No. If that's their dream, hey, why not? I do believe in cheering on every single person's dream, because here's the thing, the universe you might have this dream to be a rock star, and the universe starts guiding you when you trust. And then all of a sudden maybe become a promoter, or you write music or whatever. So never squash somebody's dreams, your children or your best friend or your partner. Let them dream. The universe will take care of the rest. And just know that you're a rock star in your own life. No matter how small you feel like your effect is, you are a powerhouse. You're a star in that beautiful sky, and you're really powerful. Know that.
I love it. Everybody's a rock star for 2015.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Well, thank you so much, Jenny, for being on my show.
I love you, baby.
It's been so much fun. And guys, go get her book. You will love it, love it, love it. So all good things. So thanks a lot, Jenny. Bye, hun. Mwah.
Love you. Mwah.